Testing, testing. If you guys would please take your seats for us, the town hall is going to get started here in the next minute or two. Thank you. We're going to just try to get people.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. We want to start on time and get to the business at hand. Thank you each for being here. We have, I'm looking for my counselors. We have Counselor Carmelia, Counselor DeMott, Counselor Ireland, Counselor Azadi, Counselor Hott. Is that all of us? I know we're missing one tonight. Okay. We're each at tables. You all have the questions. And just know at the end, I will ask each table to report out, and that will be a citizen that reports out. So decide that probably first off, which citizen wants to report out what your table talked about. But to us, your faces being here is priceless, and we can't do this alone. We need your input. We need your thoughts. We need your expertise. We all come from different places and look at things differently, and that's what we're looking for tonight. Tonight, I would like to introduce our city manager, Jody Andrews, and he will start us off.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to echo what Mayor McNally said, and thank you all and show great appreciation for you taking the time to be with us tonight. This is a very important step for the city. It's an early step, but an important one as we work together to start to build our 2026 budget. I know it's only early April 2025, but we are deeply committed to bringing in public input, having a high level of community engagement as we build together our 2026 budget. For those of you who don't know me, I am Jody Andrews, City Manager. I've been with the City of Westminster serving for almost 11 years now, and again, very happy to be here tonight in this important community workshop. So tonight is our second annual budget town hall. I hope you had a chance on your way in to check out some of the equipment and meet some of our fine staff working in both our fire and our public works and utilities departments. We're going to focus tonight on seeking your input in those two key areas. If I could have the next slide, please. Oh, I can do that here. I got it. What I'll do, yeah, you fix that. So, a quick run through of the agenda while we get our slides up and running. Which one is it?
That's the agenda.
No, sorry, which button?
It's just this one.
Yep, got it.
Not
All right, we'll fix that. For the agenda tonight, the mayor gave us a high-level overview. We're going to start the evening with staff presentations. You'll hear tonight from fire, and you'll hear tonight from public works and utilities. And that, again, that reflects the theme around fire and streets infrastructure, where we're really looking for your input. At 6:30, so at about a half an hour from now, we're going to break into these tables and do some work together, a small group discussion. We have some important questions that we're going to ask you, and you're going to have a chance to provide input on those questions and answer anything and provide any input that you would like to. We're still working on the next slide. First, I would like to talk about a few things as we get set up for the evening. And these are kind of did you know slides or did you know information. And a big part of the way the city works is revenue that we get from taxes. And I don't know that a lot of people, maybe many in the room here know, but our broader community may not know that most of the city's revenues to fund our services comes from goods and services tax. So sales tax in effect. And in the city of Westminster, that sales and use tax rate is 3.85%. I think we're going to put that up. There we go. Is it that button there? Great. So our sales and use tax is $3.8. Sorry, let me run through that again. Is 3.85%, which is $3.85 on every $100 purchased. If you look at our pie chart of funding sources, you can see that that accounts for 64% of the city's revenue. So unlike other areas of the country, the city of Westminster is primarily funded by sales and use tax, not property tax. And I have some information on property tax. Our property tax mill rate, which is how property taxes are assessed against your property value, is 3.65 mills. For example, for the city of Westminster, a $500,000 home, I don't know if you all realize, but you pay $108.82 a year in city property tax. I know your property tax bills are a lot higher than that. It's because they go to the school district and the county and a few other charges. Just to put it in perspective, for a $500,000 home in the city of Westminster, your annual property tax is just over $100. That partly explains why we're here tonight, to work together on how to fund some of our core service needs. By way of comparison, I've run through those numbers. Westminster at 3.85% on sales tax is very competitive in the Front Range. So you can see the range of our comparator cities from Aurora through to North Glen. And I believe the lowest rate in our peer group is 3% sales tax. And North Glen at the highest is 4%. So we're at 3.85%. The chart on the right shows you the property tax rates. And one thing that's interesting and a bit unique about Westminster is we are a full service city, so we have our own fire department. And so when you look at that second column, there is no additional charge to our residents for the fire service. That's included in our property tax rate, and at 3.65 mills, we are the lowest of all of our comparator cities. When you go and look through that list, you can see that there is a city that's pushing 30 mills, and we are a tenth of that. So I just want to set that as a did you know slide. I think some people may not be aware what our primary funding source is, which is sales and use tax. All right, I'm going to move to the next slide and talk briefly before we get started tonight on our budget development process. So the budget is the framework for how the city operates. Our current budget for 2025 is funding our operations this year. It's funding everything that you see happening in the city today. The budget we are talking about tonight is for 2026. So we're early in the process, but it's important that we take the time to build the budget for the city. And so the work tonight will build into our 2026 budget. Want to talk about progress to date. We had our very first kickoff in January where we reviewed budget best practices with City Council. And since then, we've been having each department director come to a public City Council meeting and present their department and their department's budget to City Council and engage in a discussion around their services and the budget for those services. We are almost complete with those. We have one more left this coming Monday, and then we move into the next stage of the process. Tonight's goals, again, to present to you fire and roadway infrastructure. You'll hear from our leaders in both of those areas. You provide feedback to us about the fire and roadway infrastructure. And I also want to highlight that tonight on your table, you will see something with the QR code. We are also opening tonight the submission process for community requests to be considered in the 2026 budget. So all of you get the first in on that process. You can engage tonight or anytime up through May 3rd. So this is where a community member can submit directly to the city a request for something that you would like to see included in our 2026 budget. Those requests are each reviewed by City Council as part of the 2026 budget building process. All right, I would next like to invite up Fire Chief Eric Burke, and Chief Burke is going to walk through with you some really important data around where our fire department and our fire service is at, and talk to you about some of the needs emerging in the coming years.
Thank you, City Manager Judy Andrews. Hello, I'm Eric Burke, and I'm the Fire Chief for the Westminster Fire Department, and I want to thank you for being here tonight. I want to provide just a very brief overview of my career. I've worked with the Westminster Fire Department for 23 years. I started as a firefighter, worked as a paramedic, worked in many supervisory positions. The last 10 years, I've served as a chief officer, 4 years directing our emergency medical operations, 5 years directing all of our 911 operations, and for the last year, in interim and permanent basis, I have served as the fire chief. And I have to say that it is an honor to be the community's fire chief and serve the community which I was born and raised. Tonight we will be reviewing some fire department operation and infrastructure needs. And if we could move to the next slide, please. I got it now? Okay. This one. All right. As a department, we've been experiencing an increase in calls for service, significant increase over the last 20 years. In fact, that increase is 128%. In the years 2021 and 2022, we had a 34.5% increase when compared to 2020. In 2023, we exceeded 17,000 calls for service for the very first time. And in 2024, we exceeded that total again. As a department, over the last 20 years, we've added very few resources, and we have had the same number of fire stations during that time period. When we look at this calls for increase, some may speculate that the reason for the increase is population growth, but that is not the driver of this increase. During the past 20 years, our population has only increased approximately 20%. As a department, we have also analyzed this trend, and we established a resident utilization rate, or in other words, how often a resident utilizes fire department services. And what we found in 2004, that equated to 1 call per 14 residents. In 2024, that equated to 1 call per 7 residents. So the utilization rate has doubled. So even if our population had remained stagnant or flat for the last 20 years, our calls for service still would have doubled because the utilization rate is twice what it used to be. The Westminster Fire Department is an all-hazards fire department. And what I mean by that is that we provide emergency services to address all hazards associated with emergency response. All of our firefighters are trained in emergency medical and fire suppression services. And so regardless if they're on the fire engine or a medic unit, which is also known as an ambulance, they can provide both services at a moment's notice. We also provide specialized services in wildland fire suppression, hazardous materials response, technical rescue, and water rescue. And each year we respond to a wide variety of incidents, but the operations that are needed to address those incidents can largely be put into two buckets, emergency medical and fire rescue. On the screen here is a breakdown of those operations over the last 3 years, so 51,000 incidents that we respond to in that time frame. 66% of our operations were emergency medical in nature, which means the firefighters assigned to our fire engines and our medic unit were providing basic and advanced life support services. When we look at the remaining incidents, 25% of our operations were handled by our fire engines. They are fire rescue in nature. Again, this work is almost exclusively handled by our fire engine staff. This work includes responding to fires, hazardous conditions, rescue incidents, activations of fire alarm and sprinkler systems, and many other incidents. The remaining 8% are not aligned with an operational category because these are unique calls where the caller canceled our response prior to arrival or there was no incident found on our arrival. So that's the other 8%. This slide here provides a highlight of our current fire department facilities, our stations, our training tower, and our headquarters in the year that they were built. To provide some orientation, if we go to the bottom of the map, that first red dot you see is fire station number 1. If you move directly up on the map, the next red dot is fire station number 2. Then moving directly to the left on the map, the next red dot is fire station number 3. Going up from there, the next red dot is fire station number 5. Now we're going to head all the way back to the right side of the map. That first red dot is fire station 4, and all the way at the top, that red dot is fire station number 6. Our training tower is located off of Elk Drive in historic Westminster, and our fire headquarters is located at the Public Safety Center, and we co-occupy that space with the Westminster Police Department. This slide here provides a foundation for our discussion related to infrastructure challenges. On the slide here, you'll see the title of service gaps, gap areas, and that is because as a department, we've identified 2 service gaps within the community. One is in the north part of the city, in the Orchard area, and the other gap is in the central part of the city along Westminster Boulevard. We have deemed these areas as service gaps because we cannot cover those areas within the industry standard of 4 minutes of travel time, which applies to both fire and medical incidents. What 4 minutes of travel time is the time when the engine leaves the station or the medic unit leaves the station, how far they can drive in 4 minutes. And then you take that radius and you make a full circle. That is your 4-minute travel area. And we want to be able to cover a district within 4 minutes of travel. That is the industry standard. The map on the left, you can see the blue lines, which represent the city limits. And the dark shaded colors in there are the 4-minute travel time, 4-minute travel area for each of the 6 stations that I mentioned before. And you can see the gap at the top of the city and one in the central part of the city. And then moving to the map on the right, this also has the 4-minute travel area. It's solid underneath a lot of dots, so it can be difficult to see that travel area. But all of those dots represent emergency incidents that we responded to. And you can see in the top of the map and the center of the map how many of those are not covered within 4 minutes of travel. The reason 4 minutes of travel is important is because time is critical in our business. Fire can double in size every 30 to 60 seconds, and I can tell you that fires burn hotter today and faster today because of the prevalence of plastics and lightweight material in our living environment. From a medical standpoint, patients without oxygen for a period of time are at higher risk of permanent brain injury. And we know that brain injury can start as soon as 4 minutes without intervention. So 4 minutes without oxygen can cause brain injury. Depending on the location of the incident, our travel time to these areas could be anywhere from 6 or more minutes. To address these gap areas, we need a fire facility in the gap areas. In the northern part of the city, we've determined this would benefit from a fire station number 8, and the central part of the city would benefit from a fire station number 7. In addition to the need for new infrastructure, we have aging facilities. Some of our stations, as you saw, were built in the 1960s and 70s. There are 2 stations in need of total replacement, and there are others that need modernization, with Fire Station 1 being the priority for modernization. These stations all share similar infrastructure challenges and concerns, as they were not built for the modern fire service. The stations were not built to house modern apparatus and equipment. We are challenged to store our apparatus and our equipment in these stations. We have specialized apparatus and equipment that need to be paired together for an efficient emergency response, but because of space limitations, we've had to separate our equipment and apparatus to 2 different stations, and that negatively impacts our response capabilities. These stations were not built for a modern, diverse workforce. These stations were built at a time when our workforce was almost exclusively male, and 10% of our firefighting force is female. We do not have equal amenities for firefighters of all genders at these stations. These stations also lack modern health and safety provisions. Cancer is the leading cause of death of firefighters, and modern stations have built-in decontamination areas and separations to help prevent exposure to contaminants that often come back to the station via our gear and our equipment. So again, all these stations share some similar concerns. Station number 3, this station is in need of total replacement due to the common challenges and the fact that it started out as a singular modular building that's already been expanded 4 times and has reached its max electrical capacity. Fire station number 4 also needs to be replaced. Again, it shares the common challenges, but it is also downhill from a park and next to a creek and has experienced water issues that have led to settling issues and flooding issues. We have exterior cracking on the building that's indicative of structural concerns. In addition, this station was actually built with a residential design, which is not conducive for a rapid turnout or response. Station 1 is in need of modernization, again, because of the common challenges. But it is our busiest station, and we've monitored the call volume at that station, and in the future we may need to add an additional resource to meet the needs of the community, but it'll need modernization to house that staff. Our training tower is listed here. Our training tower does not provide for comprehensive training and does not have a burn training. So to participate in burn training or to use comprehensive props, we need to go to training facilities outside of the city. That takes us away from the city longer. It makes the response time back to the city much longer, and we are struggling to find available training sites. Their availability is diminishing. We also need a training facility in Westminster to host internal fire academies and to expedite our training process. Again, we're relying on outside training centers, and their availability is extremely limited. The last item that doesn't have a picture is that we have outgrown our headquarters, and it doesn't meet our current or future needs. We have administrative staff that are working at fire stations in retrofitted offices because we do not have space available in fire admin. This concludes my presentation, and I want to thank you again for being here tonight.
Thank you, Chief Burke. Good evening. My name is Paul Knippel. I am the city's Director of Public Works and Utilities. I have been with the city for going on 18 months now, so a relatively short period of time. However, all of my 34-year career after graduating from Texas A&M University has been in public works, utilities, and engineering, most of which has been working for municipalities. Prior to coming to Westminster, I was in a rather large city in North Texas for 14 years, and I'm really grateful to be here. It was the beautiful environment and the people that attracted me here, and I have not been disappointed thus far. And I'm really excited. I've enjoyed my job and getting to know the community. So tonight we're going to talk about infrastructure, specifically streets and traffic control. And so we look at things from a right-of-way line to a right-of-way line. What's going on inside of the city's public right-of-way on the surface? So we have asphalt pavement, we've got concrete sidewalk, curb and gutter. We have traffic control by way of traffic signals and signage and pavement markings as well. And then the city has some street lights that we maintain and operate, but by and large those are owned by Excel, but the city does pay for those, for the maintenance and operation of those street lights. So that is funded by the city, even though Excel takes care of them. And then lastly, traffic calming and mobility. So we're going to hit on all four of these bullets in the subsequent slides. So our asphalt pavement, we have a comprehensive and annual condition assessment that we perform on all of the pavement in the city of Westminster. That assessment looks at not just the driving surface, what you can see, but also at the structure beneath the driving surface. So it's the gravel and rock and things that build the structure and the strength of the pavement that is just below the asphalt surface that we ride on. So we need to look at all of that. And right now, the city stands where we have a pavement rating. We use a pavement quality index. It's an industry standard. We are at a score of 55. And so, or actually 54 right now is what our score is. But really more importantly, what that means is that our pavement is in fair condition. It's not excellent because not all of it is new unless it's a street segment that has just been redone. And it's not in poor condition where it's rutting and a very rough ride. So we're right in the middle. And the staff in Public Works and Utilities, we recommend that we try to stay at about that spot. The trick here is to keep good pavement in good condition. If it deteriorates too much, the cost of replacement is 10 times what it takes to just perform preventative maintenance on that pavement. So we don't want to slide off at the deep end. But we also feel there's also a cost associated with maintaining pavement. So we want to try to balance that and not necessarily try to achieve an excellent goal, but we think that a fair condition pavement is an appropriate and responsible level goal that we should be. Concrete, curb, gutter, and sidewalk. So alongside of the asphalt, you'll notice in Westminster we have concrete curbs and gutters. So that helps hold the pavement together, but it also helps with drainage. And so when we're replacing asphalt or doing maintenance on asphalt in neighborhoods or along our arterials, we'll replace broken concrete curb and gutter along with the pavement. And we do the same thing with sidewalks, curb ramps, and things of that nature. We're trying to make an investment for our Americans with Disability Act to replace ramps and things like that don't meet current standards. So when we're working in an area, we'll upgrade those. And then there's also some sidewalk connections throughout town where for whatever reason there's a gap in a sidewalk, and we want to fill that gap and provide continuity. Traffic signals and street lights. So this is part of our traffic control system here. And you can see there the picture on the left is one of our control cabinets. And these show up at every intersection in town, where there's one of them right outside if you didn't see it that's opened up. And you can look inside and see the brains that are inside of that and the complexity that goes into the controller cabinet. These controller cabinets provide the signal phasing, what's red, what's green, when it changes. It provides the communication back to our hub at the city so we can monitor and manage these systems. Provides the detection so we can tell when cars are at the intersections. So there's a lot going on at these intersections in addition to the posts, the mast arms, and the signal heads that we see. There's a lot of electronics that go into the support of that. And these cabinets get knocked down on a routine basis. Just like our fire hydrants, drivers run into them and destroy them. So that's an ongoing thing that our staff is on call for 24/7 to go get those back up and operational. There's there's other effort that goes into maintaining this. In addition to these repairs, when we have a telecom internet provider, for example, doing some directional drilling in the intersections, we need to go out and mark where our buried conduits are so they don't get hit. So that takes some effort as well. And then as the city ages, these things do wear out. And so we have things that get broken, but then we also have things that need to be replaced. A lot of the signal poles and mast arms in the city are not galvanized. They're not protected against corrosion. And so we see some degradation of those probably faster than we should. Our current standard now is to provide that corrosion protection, but there's a lot of stuff that was built decades ago that doesn't have that, and we're in the process of working on that. I will say that here this past year, we've got about a third of our traffic signalized intersections being addressed through various grants and through some city funding to provide upgrades, replacements, things of that nature. And then the last slide here, traffic calming and mobility. We have a growing list of resident issues that have been brought to our attention regarding pedestrian safety and excessive speeding in neighborhoods. Those things, we get a lot of requests. Can we not just put a stop sign? Can we put speed bumps in? Can we do other things that seem obvious? But often it needs to be looked at a little closer. So every time we do something in the right of way, it has an opposite effect, and so we don't want to cause harm. So we look at those things. And oftentimes, issues with speeding and safety are behavioral, by people just not doing what they should be, not obeying the laws that we have. But there are occasions where we have infrastructure that we could implement some change that might discourage or otherwise take away the advantage of driving fast in a neighborhood. And so there are different ways to narrow roadways, to create friction, I guess, if you will, along a roadway. Long straightaway, wide roads are just an invitation to go speeding. And so we've got a lot of these things. They do have costs. They're not as expensive as building a whole new roadway, but there are expenses involved with providing remedies for some of these issues.
Thanks, Paul. So now we're going to transition to the small group table exercises in front of you. City Council is going to facilitate some discussion. Everyone should have a packet in front of them that has those questions. So this will be about an hour long. After this, each table group will have a representative that will give us a small report out as to what was discussed. Thanks all.
talked about. I'll let you speak when it's our turn. No, yes. No, it's going to be you. It can't be a council.
All the town halls. So we got a town hall's going in there. Nothing else. So it's the parcels you see now. And then the big parcels are
Will you? Okay, all right. Okay, let's wrap up. That was a lot of discussion. I will let this table down here, who's going to be your community person?
Yeah, I'm just gonna. Oh, pardon. All right. Hi, I'm Adam. I am a new homeowner, so they gave it to the new guy. Thank you very much. So a lot of us are in South Westminster, kind of split between South Westminster and by Stanley Lake. Some of the issues that we brought up were going to be, school speeding. So definitely some speeding concerns. There's some, right on there.
Near City Hall there.
Right near City Hall. Okay. There's some crosswalks near the atrium. Also sinkholes. Let's see. What was this one? Tie-in on 88th and Zuni. I don't know what that means. Hopefully everyone else does. So some of the ideas. So we figured that. Oh, was this? Oh yeah, and then this was mine, so sorry. But getting into the parking garage at the Westminster station, it feels a little challenging because it's really narrow, and that's all. That's probably just a me thing. Yeah, crosswalks, lighting, stuff like that. So then when it came to the funding opportunities, we figured that probably a multifaceted approach would be easier than just using one of these. Clearly, the sales and use tax did not pass last year. Maybe there needs to be more better communication about that. But either way, there's also the infrastructure roadway improvement fee. Maybe pairing that with another one with let's see, would it be the accommodations tax? I think I heard that property tax hasn't been increased since '92. Again, new homeowner. Let's see. Oh, and then there's, I guess, there was a possibility of the marijuana tax as well, since I believe that we allowed the stores to be in Westminster, but then no tax is allowed on that. So maybe it was, maybe they were just going in with one ballot measure might be less confusing. Because anyway. Yeah, so allow them in and then tax them as well. So hopefully I did our group justice. Yeah. Thank you.
Who's at this table?
Hi, I'm Charlotte. So my group talked about bolstering the rental housing inspection program. We also talked about bettering parking lots and getting rid of bad streets with potholes. As well, we had both sides of the discussion on repealing Tabor. We weren't in unanimous agreement, but it was brought up for a funding source. And as well, we talked about we talked about the marijuana tax, and we brought up the P3 tax. I'm not sure what that stands for, but I remember that was part of the discussion. And we also talked about making sure that every resident here has clean drinking water and that there isn't wastewater issues, because that's something that we've seen in apartment complexes with waste water issues as well.
Who's the lucky person?
Okay, so I'm Mario Ortiz, and I'm representing our group. We had a lot of great ideas. A lot of them that involve the roads we put all over the map, and many of the things have been things that have been echoed from other groups, like there's speeding all across the city. We talked about fixing potholes, clean drinking water, police and fire services. We actually went, and when we talked about wildfires, floods, and natural events, we talked about having the fire departments coordinate with other fire departments as well as police departments coordinating with other police departments for evacuation efforts and just better communication. And then in terms of community engagement and funding, we thought it would be a great idea to talk about real dollars that are being spent. So instead of just saying like percentages, talk about actually how much this is going to cost. Or another example is, if we don't fund something, how much will that cost us later on down the road? And so I think really making it tangible for everyone who lives here, and then communicate the Westie was something that was huge that came up at our table in terms of community engagement, community involvement. I didn't even know that was in existence, and a couple of people on our table didn't. And then I don't know this last one. Provide a schedule of assets and more detail on what is being spent. So yeah, I think I kind of covered that. Any other things that I missed? Nope. Okay, great. Thank you.
Here's your other demo. My other. You were going to show people. I was? Yeah. Oh. So I got volunteer. Oh! And right off the bat, I'm showing I'm not capable. So maybe somebody else should take over. No. It's plan and competence. Our group had great conversation. We live in different parts of the city, so that was a good mix. But of our pain points, in terms of traffic getting around. In particular, I want to introduce the New Jersey concept of jug handles. So that when I come to the fitness center, turning off of 104th to Sheridan, I don't have to go across 3 lanes of traffic in 1 block to get to where I need to go for my workout safely. But that was a good discussion. All of our places are marked. There's some traffic light timing issues on Wadsworth. I think they've been talked about on Sheridan. They've been talked about. Our satisfaction, we're overall satisfied in our neighborhoods. I think there's some opportunities to provide more funding for our infrastructure. Am I missing anything? Oh yeah, the shopping center at 93rd, there's some parking issues there where the parking places have gotten squeezed together so much that they're unsafe to be parking there, and that's gonna get busier when Trader Joe's opens, right? So, and there's more shopping carts, and probably should be looking at that. We need more public education. I think that's a common theme across our tables, more communication about what the needs are and the real dollars to make it, because it's significant. And the more we know, the better decision making as a community we can make. The ballot issue for the fire department that was on the last ballot, there's a lot of feeling that it wasn't clear what that was all about. And in the absence of good information, people voted no. And maybe now they have more information, they might have voted yes had they known. We want to get more info from the city's social media. That's the preferred communication, email, using the QR code. An idea about having signs around the city about the projects that we'd like to do or need to do, so that there's more ways of getting that information shared. Let's see. Then we talked about our level of preparedness for a wildfire or flood, and across the board in terms of how prepared we are, we talked about well, I would be ready to evacuate, but could I get out? And Linda's reminding me, we have this new system, the Genesis Protect, which is really great. I'm a user. You can sign up, and for your specific address, you can get the evacuation information so that you know where to go, when you can come back. I personally used this recently. My childhood home in California was in the area of the Eaton fire, and I was worried about that home burning because my first home in Colorado burned down in the Marshall fire. So I didn't want to lose another one of my landmarks. And it was very easy to keep track of what was going on, and I was impressed by the level of information. So should there be a time that we need to use that, it's good to know that that's there and you can sign up. And I think these flyers have gotten passed around about that. What else? What else? I was concerned about wooden fencing hazard in my neighborhood because I know some communities have gone to not wooden fencing so that it's going to burn. We still are surrounded by a wooden fence where I live. Brett likes the pothole palooza. We talked about having a tabletop evacuation exercise with the community, not just within the city, but to invite community members to come and pretend that we have to evacuate and what that looks like. I think I'd come to that. Teresa had a great idea about when we're doing things like naming snowplows. Take that as an opportunity to talk about what it costs to run those snowplows and what it costs to buy a snowplow and what it costs to keep those snowplows on the road when we need them. Because a lot of people get jazzed about naming a snowplow. Let's give them the full story about it. The funding. We talked about funding. A lot of different ideas. There was some idea that we're going to get some money from the new downtown. As that gets more built out, we'll have more revenue coming in from that. I don't know what the timeline on that looks like or how that's going to be impacted by changes in the economy. My personal thought was that I think we've lost a couple of years. We've got some catch up to do. Linda and I both want to increase property tax. It's going to take more than just the two of us to do that, though, so come on, team. We think the message could be delivered better in terms of what we need and why. And we had conversation about how we compare. The chart, Jody, that you put up, how we compare across communities. We are really at a disadvantage for a city our size and as many people that love living here. When you look at that chart and see how low our property tax amount is, it's kind of sad to me. We're in favor of bonds if it's for something specific that is time bound and very, very specific and wouldn't be just used for whatever we feel like. There was an idea now that we are allowing short-term rentals to perhaps look at that as an additional revenue, and maybe we could get that in place before Sundance comes to town. And then marijuana sales, which also has come up. Our table's in favor of that as well. Thank you.
I'm gonna put it right there. I'm Jim. I want to welcome everybody. I'm glad the city puts this together for us so that we can get together, have a meeting of the minds, have people come together as far as staff and the council, the mayor, leadership. We've got our fire department here. We're represented by the police department. We have a great community that we need to be blessed and every day to have. We primarily, there you go. We primarily topped most of our discussion on things that are best for the overall community, not just specific areas in the community. You know, this is the city of Westminster, not certain areas of Westminster. So with that, we went with safety items. For example, when we're talking about big ticket items for roads, structures such as that, if the city was able to take and get more information out, and it would get more people involved to where instead of having a special project and you've got 85 people show up to a town hall, we're getting the word out, and it's going to probably have to be a marketing plan that would do that. That way, instead of 85 people representing the community, we have hundreds of people. That way we get a good idea of what is good for everybody. Such as example, one project that's going to be coming up here that very few people know about is the 72nd Corridor project. They're wanting to take, and it's projected to have one lane in each direction. Well, that will slow down traffic probably, but one problem that creates is emergency response. If we are having a fire call with our fire trucks, Chief already spoke about how critical seconds are on a fire structure. Also, if you've got medical response coming in, you have ambulances going, it's seconds. You know, you got to be within like 3 minutes of somebody not breathing. So we do not, any kind of a road project that we do not want to slow that response time down. So when the engineers are planning that, the safety has to be number one. And then fun and everything else comes second after that. And with the good input from the hundreds of people, that's the ticket. Now then, as far as the emergency response, something that we've came up with is, particularly for elderly that are living by themselves, they need to work and get to know their neighbors, their friends. They need to know the management to where they live, to where some of these people can't get out of their apartments or houses, or they're on the second floor, or they don't have a vehicle. How do they get out? So we need to work on people getting out and getting to know each other. Make sure that you've got a backup plan. Don't count on one neighbor to help you get out. Have several neighbors working together to where there's going to be someone there to help you get out of that emergency situation. Most of us were able, at our table, did have a response plan to get out. So we were pretty blessed on that. Bottom line is we're a community. We need to look out for each other. So I've always lived by the motto, it's probably why I'm still living, and I'm at 68, is safety first, fun second. Now then, as far as the budget priority, something that we need to take in consideration, as we did kind of kick around the marijuana tax, that it's not available at right now, but as far as like the sales tax for the infrastructure, we might put something on the sales tax to where people that are coming to shop in our community from outside the area, people coming from Arvada, from Broomfield, from North Glen, they're helping pay for our needs. Then also, with the city itself, is council needs to be really considerate when they're looking at some of these line items, to where if what does it take and help the community, or is it a special interest project where it's only getting 2 or 3 or 5% of the people? We need whatever we do in the community, it needs to be something that supports at least 65% of the people, not a small percentage. And so if we're taking and looking at those projects, and it's going through engineering, planning, development, as it's coming through there, they're looking at those line items, and they're looking at the expenses and the specific costs for that particular item. Then they're going to bring that to the council. The council is going to look at it and goes, okay, that helps the majority of people. That's a great deal. So that's primarily what we had. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right, our table had a really healthy discussion, lengthy discussion about some infrastructure items and needs within the neighborhoods, and some of the themes were sidewalks, some areas that are in need of repair, either from sinking or tree roots, popping those up, and even some areas that are lacking sidewalks entirely. Signage concerns, there was a few spots within the city where there's inadequate signage, or it's faded to the point that it's not even readable. We did talk quite a bit about pedestrian crossing enhancements, areas where like 112th and Marshall, being able to get across that section of road and having lights, and then also from our PD partners in the back, people that are ignoring the pedestrian crosswalk and driving right in front of pedestrians. And also we did note a few areas that are in need of some lighting improvements, and we have those marked down here on our map. As far as expectations for the city related to infrastructure, some of the comments were maintaining infrastructure the way that we are, but also noted that there may be certain areas of the city that are more in need of repair or investment than other parts of the city, given there are some new areas. When we talked about evacuation, there were some concerns as far as evacuations in the upland area, given the density and the number of exits in that area, as well as the new units near prospectors, and also education on evacuation preparedness and the role that the fire department can also assist the community as far as doing home safety inspections and meeting with the community to make sure they're aware of the tools that are available within the fire department. From a communication standpoint, what could the city do to improve in communication? Information on how to sign up for emails such as the Westies, so we talked about that. There's also a need to improve communication related to road closures, notifying residents of the road closures, but also that emergency responders are aware when a road is closing. And the comments was having that be part of the city's responsibility rather than an outside private entity. Revenue generator ideas, some were increasing the sales tax, possibly to an even 4%, property tax, and then also reprioritizing current expenditures to fund essential services, and then bringing in revenue generating businesses to Westminster. Comments are made as in and out, Raising Cane's, those type of generators. And then also bringing in strong jobs with a residential component where people can have a quality paying career and job, but live near that where they work. And so those are the comments and the major themes from our table.
Well, in honoring your time, we're giving you 7 extra minutes tonight. We can't thank you enough. Wow, my head is spinning with all of your good ideas, some that I hadn't thought about. So thank you so much for your time, your energy. I think staff has lots to go back and put together and come back to council with some thoughts and ideas and how we have more of these. But first, let's thank the communication team that I know worked tirelessly to get this put together. Let's hear it for them. To all of our staff, we have engineers here, we have police department here, we have fire department here, we have roads and utilities people here. Thank them for taking a night from being from their families. I don't know what it's looking like. I know before the sun went down, I could see the snow falling. Be safe. It looks very foggy out there. Just be safe, and thank you from the bottom of our hearts for coming out tonight and giving us great feedback.